Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex Marshall has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king, from rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more. X Marshall has got you covered. X Marshall is an extremely community oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmarshall.com and enjoy the fight.
Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. And as always, I am joined by a man who doesn't let a broken toe get in the way of recording this podcast or any other of his duties, John Gamebred Boguslavski. John, how are you, sir? How are things?
Good, sir. By yourself?
Very well, mate. Listen, Robert Whittaker has a knockout win. The Euro Cup is on here in Europe.
We have Copa America here.
Copa America's on as well. Yeah, Canada are doing pretty well. I mean, life couldn't be better. Life couldn't be better.
Honestly, I'm surprised Canada even scored yesterday. So we still have hope in the same category as Argentina.
More so than most England fans, I can tell you that, mate. We were pretty. I'm glad I was on a plane last night to miss that rubbish. But anyway, getting away from rubbish things. I mean, let's jump straight in and just get a quick kind of reaction to that thunderous uppercut from one of my favorite fighters, who I always talk about, but I'm happy to wax lyrical about this man, Robert Whittaker. What did you think about that performance over the weekend, mate?
I mean, amazing performance. Short notice, kind of. He's supposed to fight Hamza, and he fought Ikram. And there's reports that Hamzat said that his fight so far in his career was against Ikram. I don't know how many years ago now, probably like 5-7 years ago, where he knocked him out, also with an uppercut. I guess Whittaker saw some footage. Did the Hamzat, knocked him out in the first round. First knockout in 7 years. I think Whittaker needed that because he's not been knocking out people. He lost to all the champs in the middleweight division, Izzy and Plessis. So he needed something to come back to the title contention.
I mean, what a legend! Like to go out and have that performance, man. Like if he's not your favorite fighter, or at least top three, I mean, do you even MMA? Like, come on, that guy's phenomenal. Highly recommend his podcast as well. That's a lot of fun. I was watching it with a few friends, and shout out to Chris and Joao and Jorgen. And as soon as Bobby hit that first shot and he rocked him, the two of us, me and Chris, were just going nuts, absolutely nuts, waiting for this finish because we're both Robert fans. So, man, it was a lot of fun to see that, and a lot of fun to see Bobby come back and do that, man, because that's massive. That's massive because everyone was kind of talking this guy up. He's actually maybe better than Hamza. It's a tough fight. He's unranked. It's a questionable one for Rob to take it. But no, he stepped up. He did what he needed to do. Get that man the title shot. I don't care about none of this Sean Strickland stuff. Don't want to see it. I don't want to see Sean Strickland leech his way to another title shot. Get Robert Whittaker the next title shot after Izzy and Duplessis. Do you see it the same way, or are you sitting in that Sean Strickland fan camp?
I see it as you have to fight Sean Strickland now because he's on a 2-fight win streak since he. Sorry, 3-fight win streak since he lost to Drakus, right? He fought Vittori, Costa, Aliskerov. All three of those men are not close to top contendership. Maybe Vittori, kind of. Vittori, lost to Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
Costa's on a huge downfall, even losing to Sean Strickland. I think we have two clear kind of number one contenders. And we already have a title fight announced, though. So I would let both of those men fight each other. For the clear number one contender, especially Whitaker has 2 losses on Izzy and has a loss over Drakus. So you kind of, as a Whitaker fan, you hope Drakus wins so that he could have a rematch against him. Because if Izzy wins and you throw him against Izzy again, we kind of saw this how it happened twice. I think it's going to go exactly how the second fight went. It's both men being older. Izzy kind of regenerated, refreshed. Let's see how he faces against Drakus, and then that'll set the judgment how Whitaker will do. But I think the move is Sean versus Whitaker on that same card as a clear number one contender. You call out the champion, and you have no choice other than set up the future fight like that.
Yeah, that is, like, honestly, that is where the smart money is, and I'm being super biased and saying just shoot Rob straight there. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid argument. It really is a solid argument, and it's literally just biased that wants me to have that Rob straight in there for the winner of that fight. And I'd like to see a Robert Drickers rematch, as well as that Izzy fight again, because Izzy's changed a lot since his losses. How is he going to come back? We're not quite sure. Rob seems to have leveled up quite a bit in the time off, and you never know how a third fight might go. But that being said, let's jump to what's left of this card. And first of all, what do you think about Conor dropping out? Is it a massive disappointment to you, as it is kind of on our side of the pond, so to speak?
It's a massive disappointment in terms of UFC revenue, because I feel like Conor card brings in the most money. But I think it's a smart move for Conor, because you don't want to go to a fight with being compromised, especially a broken toe. So your foot's not even 100%. And especially you're fighting a guy like Michael Chandler, who blitzes, who's just a fire pit of cannonball running towards you. You need to be, your feet has to be 100% to be able to, Connor style, going in and out, being like a sniper. With your foot compromised, you cannot do that. Especially it's the same foot where he got the broken broken leg against Poirier, where he was out for this long. I think it's a smart move, especially he's never redraw from a fight when he could have multiple times. So I'd rather see 100% Conor, 100% healthy Conor against Michael Chandler, and instead of compromise Conor, and then after the fight, whether he wins or loses, or if he loses, there'll be excuses. I have a broken toe, blah blah blah, blah, and this and that. So I prefer him pulling out, getting healthy, being 100%, and maybe headline the MSG card with John Jones or something. Be massive, massive pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you got to look at it in perspective of Conor's career, right? If you want to stretch him out for another 2-3 fights, maybe. I mean, I don't know how much more you're going to get out of him. You definitely want that Nate Diaz fight. If he goes in there and loses to Chandler, you really do take some of the edge off that fight and any potential future fights they really want to have with him. I mean, personally, I don't see where they go with him other than the Diaz fight. If he gets a 2-fight win streak, then what do you do? And do you set up a BMF with title shot? Where? Welterweight?
Conor has Dana White privilege, so he gets a 2-fight win streak. He calls out
wants.
Islam or whoever is the champion at the time, and he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it. You don't have to jump over anybody. If you really want to, you could have a BMF belt Holloway at, I guess, a catch weight. I don't know if he wants to go down to 155, but 165.
No, yeah,
Holloway would probably do it. Holloway try to get his revenge against Conor. Diaz fight. Who else could it be? I don't know if Poirier. You might want to have a 4th fight with Poirier just for a money fight type thing, because Poirier is also a massive star. He's back and forth with retirement right now. But you could definitely do something. But like Dano says, it all depends on Conor, how much he has left in the tank, how much he wants to fight for. Because this guy's a multi-billionaire, so I don't know if he wants to get many concussions stepping in the cage every time.
He is. It's true, and definitely with Michael Chandler, he's got a high risk of one. I mean, yeah, that would be my take. It seems like the rumor is, obviously, he was talking on Bellator, was it PF, whatever it is. He was talking about that over the weekend, saying he's going to be back August, September. You never know, obviously, with Conor McGregor. But I mean, that Sphere card, that's got to be the one, hasn't it? Right? Because October you've got Abu Dhabi, November you've got MSG, which is probably going to be Jones and Stipe. December, you're going to put it on an end of year December card for Conor. He has done the January card a couple of times. Man, I think the Sphere's got to be the way to go. because then you'll make back a lot of that lost gate money, right? Imagine what they could charge for the Sphere, for Conor McGregor at the Sphere.
I don't think it matters which pay-per-view. If it's January, December, I think the money will come in no matter what. People will
Yeah.
travel to wherever he fights no matter what. So it just have a healthy Conor. That's your biggest worry. And also, Conor's gonna headline a pay-per-view. So it's like who on the Sphere, it's gonna be, it sounds like it's gonna be O'Malley and Merab or Topuria and Holloway, like somebody like that. So it has to be somebody who's okay being a co-main to Conor's main event and share the pay-per-view
Well, I think
points
you
type
do
thing.
Shevchenko aggressor, right? From the tough season. You could do
Well,
them below Conor.
Shevchenko doesn't want to fight on Mexico Independence Day. I
Ah,
know
come
this fair
on.
was supposed to be Mexico Independence Day, but it's not anymore. But she doesn't want to be with biasness with Mexicans, but um it could be that. It could be that. But they also, I think the Sphere, they're gonna blow it up and have 3 title shots or 2 title shots in a Conor main event, something like that.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You are going optimistic. I like it. I like it.
If you already spent 16 million into the Sphere, and as the money's is only gonna go up, I think is gonna try to put up a big pay-per-view so she could get the money back for that.
Hey, that'll be banging. So something to look forward to. And then that brings us to this reshuffled UFC 303 International Fight Week pay-per-view card. Alex Pereira coming in to save the day once again against Yuri Prochazka. Pereira, for the light heavyweight championship. Pereira running a 3-fight win streak at the moment, just off his UFC 300 defense against Jamal Hill. Obviously, that infamous knockout. And then Yuri Prochazka coming in off a 1-fight win streak, losing obviously previously to Alex Pereira in November and then beating Alexander Rakic somehow. I still have no idea how he managed to come back and beat him in that fight. This is an exciting fight, but what I want to do first is just remind you, Mr. Boguslavski, of a pick you made. Do you remember what you picked the first time this fight happened?
Remind me, please.
Yuri Prochazka by decision was your pick when this fight went down in Madison Square Garden last November. I picked Alex Pereira by knockout round 3 with a straight right. So, how are you feeling about this fight? Do you see it the same way?
Do I see it the same way as my prediction or same way as the first fight?
Same way as the first fight. We'll go to predictions a little bit later. Just wanted to remind you, just set the scene there of where you were last time.
So I don't see it going as the way as the first fight. I think it's gonna go a bit different. It's gonna go a bit different, and I will stick with my prediction the same, but not same result.
Okay.
People might think I'm the biggest Pereira hater, but I really like Pereira. I think he's a massive star. I think due to him being on this card and Lopez, this card became so much better than it previously was. But it's 2 scary strikers, 2 insane madmen going against each other again. Everyone's talking about the face-off, the stare down they had as when Bruce was announcing their fight in the octagon. I mean, that's what you want to see. I think Yuri was a bit, I was gonna say surprised, but kind of surprised and eager to get in there because he was just coming off his shoulder injury that took him out for a year or 2 years, I think. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to fight MSG against, who was he supposed to fight? Was it against the rematch against Teixeira? So no, he wasn't supposed to fight MSG. He was supposed to fight in December against
Teixeira, that's right.
And he got a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So I think he was just eager to come back. He's been with Alex there once. He knows the power he has through his left hand. He knows what he has to look forward to. So I believe Yuri's gonna adjust well. And I think the better MMA fighter is Yuri, but the scarier knocking striker power is Alex Pereira. I just think Yuri has to do a few adjustments, not go in head first and defend Pereira's shots with his head and try to get more defense going. Because if you look at the first fight, Yuri was making Pereira confused, getting his back into the cage and landing some shots. if he could do that consistently for 3 rounds, I could see Yuri finishing the fight. Pereira has to have that left hook landed on Yuri again. That's his best case scenario. I think Yuri will understand what he did wrong in the first fight and will continue what he did in the first round. And so up until that knockout, up until he got caught by a left hook of Pereira. So that's how I see this fight going differently.
Interesting. Yeah, I watched the first fight just before we jumped on, and I actually remembered that we recorded the preview for that. So that's why I went back and checked our predictions to see how it went. Yeah, it's interesting because we're essentially splitting hairs a little bit between these two guys. I feel like with watching that Yuri Prochazka performance back and then watching his fight against Rakic, it was similar but different. And I think in the first Pereira fight, after about 3 minutes or 2 minutes of the first round, Prochazka shoot. It takes 2 minutes for Pereira to land a really big leg kick to actually drop Prochazka. Prochazka falls to the ground on that leg kick. It really hits him with one. He hits a couple more, and then a minute later, Prochazka shoots. Pereira kind of holds the guillotine, but then eventually Prochazka gets it down, and that's the end of the first round. And he kind of follows that in the second round. What's different, I think, with that Rakic fight is exactly like you said. Prochazka starts to defend with his head and just decide, nope, I'm going to put my chin down, head forward, and just go and eat punches. I'm not really going to engage too much with the grappling. And he ate punches, leg kicks, everything against Rakic. So it's going to be, from my point, it's going to be really interesting to see, okay, does Alex Pereira carry more damage and more threat than Rakic does? As that's why Prochazka chose not to wrestle with him and just decided to stand and bang instead. Or does Prochazka go again with that same game plan and just try and smother Alex Pereira? I mean, the best evidence we've got for Pereira is the second Izzy fight, right? Where we were talking in the first pod that Alex Pereira needs to not overextend himself. And one thing that Pereira struggled with, exactly like you said, he was going backwards. Prochazka did force him to go backwards with the feints. Specifically, it was the knee and the uppercut that the Prochazka was feinting to get Pereira to back off to the fence, and that's kind of what caused it. I think he got, a lot of people argued about the stoppage at the time, but he got a big shot on Prochazka. Had it gone a bit longer, who knows? Maybe Prochazka recovers guard and we see a bit of a different fight. So you could be onto something, man. You could be on something. It's all going to depend on what Yuri decides to do. I agree with you. I think Yuri is the one with the ability to set the pace of the fight and be the better MMA fighter with that wrestling threat. But we don't know what gains Pereira's made in that since then, really.
And I like the good point you brought up with the leg kicks. I think Pereira's leg kicks are deadly, and I think Yuri has to do it at all costs to try to limit them. And utilize the wrestling, utilize him backing up instead of going forward. Because in every fight you saw Pereira in the UFC, he was the one who moved forward against the Greek fella. I keep forgetting his name.
Michaelides.
Bruno Silva, Strickland, Izzy, Jamal Hill. Every one of those fights, Pereira was the one moving forward. But in the Yuri fight, he was the one backing up most of the time. So that's what Yuri has to keep going and just adjust. I think he felt Rakic's power in that fight and is like, screw it, I'll just eat all of them, literally eat them, and then I'll just overpower. I don't think you could do that with Pereira because he is a scary knockout artist. So I believe you should do the adjustment, get Pereira down. I know Pereira's been working on his judo with Kayla Harrison. We saw those videos. Let's see if he can bring that into this fight. But just Yuri has to do a few adjustments because he was getting it. I think if watching back round one, he finished stronger in round one, and he started round two pretty well with backing up to the cage. Just got caught at the end there, so he has to adjust to those little things to make the fight last a little longer and in his favor. Yeah, I think Pereira just got to do what he did last time and just move a bit more forward and kick his legs, be angry, and find that left hook to the chin.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how Yuri reacts to that, because that to me, especially after the Rakic fight, that's the biggest path to victory. I think you could be given. That's literally there on a platter for Pereira. Just say, kick me, kick me, kick me. And you saw what he did in that first fight. Rakic didn't quite do that to Yuri. That goes to show the baseball bat power that Pereira has in those leg kicks. And what's really weird is it doesn't even look like he throws them hard. That's what really got me just watching that fight back. So it's a fascinating one, man. So you said you're going to change up something about your prediction. So does that mean you're going Alex Pereira decision, or you're going to continue Alex Pereira hate train you've got going on?
I love Alex. I have a signed bottle from him right here. This is
Oh,
Alex Pereira
nice.
signed my bottle right there. So I like Pereira, but I like Yuri as well. And I think Yuri is more unorthodox, more a wild man. So I'm gonna stick with Yuri Prochazka. I'm gonna say round 3 knockout.
Ooh. Okay, okay. Yuri Brashka round 3 knockout. Do you think it's going to be standing or ground strikes or what? Or just
Standing. It's gonna be
standing?
something. I think it's gonna be standing, and then it's gonna go on to a ground strike if Pereira's not fully out. I think we're gonna see Pereira most hurt in here we have ever seen him in his UC career.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Pereira's right on that wave.
Just to bring up one more point, allegedly Pereira has also a toe injury.
2 broken toes, apparently, I've heard.
So 2 broken toes. So it might compromise him a little bit. Or Pereira just like he's such a madman that he doesn't even give a crap how much
Yeah.
he's hurt. That he's just gonna keep fighting the way he does.
Yeah, probably. I think this is a fascinating fight for both guys. Like the result is very important for both. You know, Pereira, you're looking at, people are starting to mention that GOAT word and things like that with Pereira and pound for pound, and what he's doing. And Prochazka, I feel like it's a big one because he has flirted with going down to middleweight. So that being said, I'm gonna go
Asuka
for
middleweight would be insane, actually.
that would be a monster. He'd be a monster. I'm gonna go with Poatan Pereira first round. I think he's gonna better himself.
First round.
Yeah, I think those injuries are gonna play, and he's gonna want to get out there, finish it quick. And I think Yuri's gonna jump at him like a bat out of hell. Something's gonna go first round. Alex Pereira, KO. And then Yuri Prochazka to move down to middleweight. That's my prediction. That as well. Prochazka's next fight will be a middleweight.
I don't like that move. We saw Pereira middleweight, how his chin is kind of vulnerable. I think it's gonna be same to Prochazka because he's a big dude. He's a jack person. Getting all that weight off of him. We'll see. I hope actually Prochazka wins and we have a nice little trilogy by the end of the year.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then your prediction of Magomed Ankalaev to be a light heavyweight champion doesn't come fruition.
Alex Pereira to go up to middleweight, Ankalaev to fight Jamal Hill or Prochazka for the vacant belt. Okay. Next fight, co-main event. I mean, if this doesn't get you, if this does not get the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, what will? Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez. Brian Ortega coming off. I don't know. Do you want to call it impressive? What do you want to call that victory against Jair Rodriguez? Kind of a grinding victory.
Yeah, of course it's impressive. Yeah, of course it's impressive. He 10-8 himself, almost breaking his ankle, and then 10-8 in the first round, and then he came back to it. So
yeah, coming off that an incredible triangle win in the third round against Jair Rodriguez, and Diego Lopez just stealing the show, really. I mean, he's stealing the hearts and minds of every UFC fan. He's coming off 3 consecutive wins. The last one, round 1 at UFC 300, that got him a nice 300 G's bonus off of Sadiq Youssef. I mean, this is fun written all over it, right? With capital.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this gets me tingling. This is an amazing fight. I think this is a better co-main than Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg. I would have been intrigued with Roundtree, but I think this is better than the co-main of Roundtree and of Ulberg and Jamal Hill. I think Lopez is becoming slowly one of the stars in the UFC. I think every time he fights, everyone's excited. He has a good personality. Everybody's talking about his hair for his first fight, where he almost finished Ivlev twice, and they thought he was joking, but then he came back. He's like, okay, first round triangle, first round knockout. He's not messing around, and I think he gets it done again the way he did his last 3 fights, first round finish. I should have said that later, but I don't see any holes in Lopez's fight. I think he was against Evlev, kind of maybe, I don't know, starstruck, but definitely something was off. If you watch that fight again, he started slow. Evlev got the bounce. Maybe the wrestling is just that superior, but he almost finished with him with an armbar and a triangle. And now we see he's not just a jiu-jitsu guy, he's actually a knockout artist at featherweight, or at least he has heavy hands. Because what he did to Pat Sabatini, he got Gavin Tucker, actually all of them, Gavin Tucker, he hit him with a strong punch, knocked him down, and then he's utilized jiu-jitsu to get the finish. Where Tucker was not there, so he could have finished him in any way he could have wanted. Especially Yusuf, Sadiq Yusuf. There was so much hype going into Yusuf when he was first starting UFC, and then his fight against Barboza was fight of the night. He got kind of dominated by Barboza towards the end of the rounds. And like, okay, see what he does against Lopez, but Lopez came out swinging and got it down in the first round. I don't see any holes in Lopez's fight right now. I think he's big, he's strong, he's super fast. His jiu-jitsu is crazy. So I don't see anything Ortega does better than him, except matching him with his jiu-jitsu. Even though we talked about the Rodriguez fight, Ortega doesn't start strong. He always, in the first round, he always seems like he's off every time. With Rodriguez, with Volk. I mean, remember with Korean Zombie, that was like already like 4 years ago, 3 years ago now. So, and Lopez has the trend of finishing the first round. I think Lopez has the massive advantage here.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much I can add to the Lopez chat, man. I mean, the guy is just he's so fun to watch because he just finishes with like zero concern for for his own safety. Pretty much, he's swinging, he flies, and I don't think Ortega has the skill set to be able to deal with that. I don't think he has, a Max Holloway esque boxing skill set to be able to get out of the way and pick him off with a looping punch over the top or something like that as Lopez is flying in. Where it does get interesting is if it goes to the ground. I mean, Ortega off his back could catch something. I could see a world where Lopez knocks Ortega down, flies in, and Ortega catches a triangle or an armbar or something like that as he's flying in with those ground and pound punches. Because I think Lopez, we could, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I do not believe what I'm about to say, but we could see that hole in Lopez's game is immaturity in the octagon play against him here, where he does get Ortega down and he flies in, and then Ortega catches him in something. We don't know what that might be, but we know he can do it. And unless your name is Alexander Volkanovski and you are a fish and can breathe out of your gills, we know people aren't getting out of that. I mean, you only have to look at what he did to Cub Swanson to know how deadly that guy's grip is. However, Diego Lopez is going to absolutely storm through Brian Ortega. I think. I think I said this about Yair Rodriguez as well. I think I said Rodriguez is going to storm through Ortega. So maybe I'm like very disbelieving in Ortega's abilities, but he kind of did in that first round anyway. So my question off the back of it is, if you're Ortega, what is your motivation for taking this fight? Obviously for Lopez, it's, of course, you take this fight. You have a chance to jump to number 3 and be in the discussion for a title shot, right? But if you're Ortega, why are you taking this fight? Is it another Robert Whittaker situation, right, as we've just seen in Saudi Arabia, or what do you think?
If you're Ortega, you have to take this fight. You have to keep up the momentum going. Everyone's talk about, oh, you're kind of close to the title shot since he's won against Rodriguez. Like, oh, maybe he does get a title shot. But look what Holloway did. There's Mostar Ivlev there as well. Like, he's kind of close. So he had to take this fight to be like, if he beats Lopez, I'd rather see Ortega fight for the belt than Mostar Ivlev. I think he jumps everybody in a division with a win against Rodriguez, with his almost finishing Volkanovski. It just, Ortega doesn't fight anybody else, so I think he had to take the fight to remind people who he is, especially ever since his Holloway fight, or even before that with Anger. He wins, he loses, he wins, he loses, and obviously he does lose against one of the best people in the featherweight division, but he needed more names on his record, especially
Mhm.
being 32 for being in UFC for so long. Everybody who fought kind of Edgar retired, Swanson's on the edge of retirement, Korean Zombie retired, Moicano's at lightweight. So his wins in the UFC is kind of like fading out. Nobody has seen those wins anymore, especially if you're
Mm.
more of a recent fan. And he hasn't won in the Pereira era since only Rodriguez. That's it. And as the last fight we saw him fight. So he needs to build up the momentum.
He
Get
hasn't won
that.
in the Pereira area.
Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's great. One thing actually that just sprung into my mind with when you said that, when they were showing Ortega's highlight reel, I think on the countdown show, it was him fighting in like the original shorts. You know when the fighters could wear their own shorts?
There you go. Yeah,
That's how
that's
old some of his wins and highlight reels are, right?
and I'm then Reebok came into UC in 2016. I want to
Somewhere
say
around there,
20,
right? Yeah.
2015. That's almost 10 years ago. That's 9 years ago now, 2015, 2016. That's when
Yeah.
Reebok era came in. It's been a while since he had a solid win against a solid contender. He did well. I guess he survived versus Volkanovski, but he got a beating. He got a beating. He got a beating against Holloway. Rodriguez's first fight got an injury. We know his injury problems.
Hmm.
If just to continue your devil's advocate, yes, I think the only path to victory from Ortega is getting dropped, and then somehow throwing a T City moment or a triangle or a guillotine. But I don't think Lopez is that naive. I think he knows who he's facing. He's surrounded. He trains with Grasso, who's a champion. I think he knows that what it takes to be a champion. He has excellent jiu-jitsu. He knows who Ortega is. He's not just gonna fall into the trap of Ortega, even as sneaky as Ortega could be.
Yeah.
And he's again, Lopez has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. There's a reason he's that. I don't think he is silly enough to get caught in the gilly.
I think he could be. Honestly, like in fact, me actually saying it is kind of making me almost believe it.
No, he doesn't. Stop lying.
um, Fun fight though, man. That's a hell of a fun fight, and I would love it. Honestly, Diego Lopez is one of those guys. If you compare him to that guy at the top of the division, whose name I shall not mention, he's so likable, and he's just such a fan favorite, and just such a exciting fighter to watch. Apart from the tattoo that he's got, because that's not great. But other than that, he's a lot of fun, and him getting a win here would be phenomenal. Do you think that would slingshot him above? I think there's talk that the Holloway Topuria fight is done, but it's not official. I think they haven't announced it. Would it catapult him above the Volk rematch after Topuria Max?
All the way. Oh yeah. If you remember our beginning of the year predictions,
Mm-hmm.
I had Lopez fighting for the championship.
Yeah, I think I
So
remember you did. Yeah.
go back and watch that. It's coming. It's cutting in short, close now. It depends. If he wins, if Lopez wins, he's definitely number one contender. And definitely number one contender. I think most of Evloev fights are boring, so Dana doesn't want him to fight for the title just like that yet. It really depends what Topuria wants to do. I think Topuria might be a little bit afraid of Max, and the little conspiracy theorist of me may be if Lopez wins, they're like go Topuria like, hey, this is the date. Who do you want to fight, Holloway or Lopez? And if I was Topuria, I think you'd want to get the easier fight, which you think
Yeah.
would be Lopez. I
Yeah.
think it would be Lopez, especially after him seeing how he knocked out Gaethje front row seats. I think Topuria is a little bit afraid.
Hey, I can see it as well. Listen, what's your prediction for the co-main event here, Ortega and Lopez? Where are you going?
I think I said it earlier. It's definitely Lopez first round knockout. I think even you saw against Rodriguez, it was 10-8 for Rodriguez, and Rodriguez is a much better striker. I think Lopez has more power than Rodriguez. I think he gets done first round. I don't think there's going to be a beating. I think it's going to be first round Lopez. Call out to Pereira, pay 50K, another 50K bonus, and walk home on International Fight Week.
Yeah, imagine if the dude gets another bonus. This is the issue. I think exactly the same as you, and that's the issue. UFC and MMA is not that simple, right? And very often when we agree so heavily about it, we're probably wrong. But that's not going to stop me. I'm still going to go. I'm still going to go Diego Lopez by some sort of finish. I have no idea how, but some sort of finish in that first round. So that takes us from this fight into what's probably your cup of tea, go to the bathroom fight. So that is indeed Anthony Smith and Roman Dolidze. I kind of say it in jest. I like Anthony Smith, but is this the fight where you go and you get whatever you need to get? Some more beers in the fridge, pizza, whatever. Tell me it's not, John.
It's not.
It's not. Why?
I think this has potential to be a good fight. I'd rather this be at middleweight for Dolidze. Because this does nothing for Smith in light heavyweight division, and this does nothing for Dolidze in the middleweight division. This has potential to be a good fight because Dolidze is so good on the ground. Smith is so good on the ground. Dolidze has some good striking. As long as we don't see him how he did against Imanov. I know he lost kind of stock in Dolidze's last fight, and Smith gained a lot of stock in his last fight, beating the undefeated Petrillo, I believe. Was it Victor Petrillo?
Yeah, Victor Petrino in Brazil.
Victor Petrino, yeah, and in Brazil too. So he's coming off a lot of momentum. He did a guillotine. Dolidze, I don't think Imanov is at the level of Smith, so this might be an easier fight for Dolidze. Doesn't have to cut as much weight to 85, so he's probably walking around 215, 210, 220, something like that. So it doesn't cut a lot of weight. But this has potential to be a good fight. Would I rather see Smith versus Alberg? Yes, because it makes more sense in the light heavyweight division. I don't think this fight does any good for either of them in terms of their standings, fighting for a title shot or moving up the rankings. But it could be potential to get a bonus for a fight of the night or a performance bonus, depending how either man does in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to what fight would I prefer to see, that would be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree, but we just ain't getting it. We just ain't getting it. No doubt, no doubt the Smith-Carlos Ulberg fight would have been a really good fight. Another contender being fed to Anthony Smith to kind of see what he can do with them. We saw what he did with Petrino. He kind of old-manned him and then guillotined him after he showed kind of a bit of overzealousness. I think I've said it before on the pod when we previewed the Imavov fight. I liked Dolidze and I thought he beat Marvin Vettori in that London fight in March of last year. So he's got potential, but look, I mean, for me, I feel the opposite to you. I feel like this has got all the ingredients to be a bit of a bore, to be honest. Really short notice for both. Dolidze, yeah, you might be right. He might be walking around at 215, whatever. Anthony Smith, I don't really know what he walks around at, but again, he's another one coming in. And was it short notice that he took the Khalil Roundtree fight? It was, right? If I remember rightly.
I think as soon as they announced Jamal Hill was injured, yes, like 2 weeks ago.
No, but I mean when he fought Khalil Roundtree, Khalil knocked him out. Was that on short notice for Smith? I think it was, no?
I can't quite remember. But even with a short notice, Roundtree did what he's supposed to do, and Smith survived the round. Let's say that.
Yeah.
And Roundtree got done in the second round. Just Roundtree's built different. He's just like, I think Joe Rogan said it best. Roundtree fights like somebody just killed his dog. So he, of course, will go at it. Smith is obviously coming out that age.
Yeah.
He's a bit older. And then Smith has 45. He's
got all the fights.
He has 50. He has 56 fights.
Yeah.
In his MMA career as how old is he? 35-year-old. So he's coming up there, definitely has the experience. We hyped up Delite. We know, and both of us thought he beat Vittori, and I think a lot of MMA fans would think the same. He just came up short against Imanov. I think he just got rocked early, and he couldn't recover in time.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Georgians are on the rise right now, so
Yeah, too right.
I'm hoping for a better outcome for Delite. I hope people remind who he is against Smith,
Yeah.
and then goes back to middleweight and does what he does. He was supposed to fight Fluffy Hernandez and beginning of the month on June 1st.
Yeah.
On June 1st, he had a fight against Fluffy Hernandez. Hernandez got injured, and he was supposed to fight Pereira. Pereira accepted the fight, but Delite didn't, because apparently they're training partners and they don't want to fight each other. That's another comment. I don't like that. I think you should fight anybody, anytime, anywhere in your division. If you want to be a champion, you can't just not fight each other, especially now with Michel Pereira being in the standings, Carlo Bahario being in the standings, and then Delita being in the standings. Like, you guys are all in the same standings. You guys are gonna fight eventually, either if it's lower in the rankings, higher in the rankings, or in the championship contention. So they have to fight each other soon.
Yeah, someone's got to do something to stand out, right?
Exactly. You can't just expect to fight somebody else in the top 10, each three of you to fight somebody in the top 10, and then each of you fight somebody in the top 5, because eventually you guys all gonna be in the same position if you guys keep winning or being in the same position. So something has to do. Delita probably just wanted to fight. He accepted against Smith. Let's see how he does. I think it's we're giving not enough credit as a fight would go.
I'm not.
Compare.
You are. I'm not.
I'm being optimistic, but I think just compared to the fight before them, that might be a little more of a snooze fest compared to this fight.
Yeah, that could be your pizza party fight. Yeah, I mean, look, one thing I will say on this fight, I think, as you may have seen, I don't know if you've seen that documentary that they've just done, the 3-part documentary behind the UFC, where they show there's an episode in particular where they're cleaning up loads of the fights and watching, I believe it's Hunter Campbell. It's a negotiation process, right? It's not as simple as you're fighting this guy, yes or no. So look, I think for these guys to take this fight on this short notice, on this card, there is a carrot for both of them. There has to be, right? Win or lose, there has to be a bit of something for both of them. Unless either of them kind of get really embarrassed, which could only really happen, I think, for Smith. If a guy from the division below comes out and finishes him in the first round, for example, then you're questioning, okay, well, the questions come back for Anthony Smith. So there must be some cherry on the top for both of these guys. For example, you win, you fight somebody higher in your division. You lose respectfully, I guess, maybe by a decision or whatever. You have a good fight, then we get you someone still ranked above you, but kind of 1 or 2 places. There's no way these guys take this fight without nothing coming back their way. Managers are too smart nowadays, and I do think the UFC, as we saw from that documentary, they do give as much as they probably get more than they give, but even still, there is a little bit about that. So yeah, I think you've got one thing to say. Give us your prediction.
I was gonna say I agree with you, because I think if you do UFC a favor, they'll give a favor back, especially with making this fight in kind of a 2 weeks notice before the
and for Anthony Smith, this is the second fight, right? Because he was originally Allberg and now Delidze, so they've got to put something on his table.
Yeah, so Smith was already kind of training for this fight. Delidze was supposed to train for June 1st. It's not like both men are coming out of shape, not preparing for a fight. Maybe, obviously, the Fluffy Hernandez versus Delidze kind of fell off a longer time ago, so Delidze might be a bit off. I'm sure this guy's still training. He doesn't have to cut as much weight, so you scratch my back, I scratch your back. UC is like probably gonna do him a favor. It's like, hey, you fight each other, and then we'll give you next fight. We'll try to give you guys both top 10 in your division, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty reasonable. So go ahead, your prediction, my man.
Yeah, my prediction, I'm gonna go Delidze decision.
Delidze decision. I think I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna go Smith decision.
Okay.
I think he's gonna old man him a little bit and kind of lean on the weight advantage, so to speak. I think it's going to be a bit of a wrestle fest. I can kind of see it against the fence, take down here, take down there, strike here, strike there. I'm not optimistic, and unfortunately, I'm going to continue my Debbie Downer moment with the next fight. I'm not optimistic about this either. Mayra Bueno Silva against Macy Chasson. Bueno Silva obviously coming off the title shot loss to Raquel Pennington earlier this year. That was a unanimous decision. And she had a lot of hype going into that fight. Macy Chasson coming off a submission win over Penne Kianzad earlier this year as well. At current, as it stands right now, Bueno Silva is ranked 3, Chasson is ranked 7, with Raquel Pennington obviously sitting top of the division, and Kayla Harrison looming ominously for anybody else in this division. I mean, what have you got to say about this fight? Is this your pizza fight? Is this the fight where you're ordering your pizza?
This is the fight where we're gonna go for a little piss break. Also, don't forget my girl Juliana Pena. She's still there.
Who?
Still there? Juliana Pena still talking.
Who's that?
She's still around. You might see her facing the winner of this, I feel. Yeah, I'm not too excited for this fight. Like Macy Chasson, her last win, kind of impressive. I guess you got a rear naked choke, and you got your revenge win against Penny Kianzad. And I remember me and Patty was doing a breakdown of that fight card, and we're like, why is Penny still ranked and facing Macy? So Macy got it done, make it seem like it easy. It was her last win against Norma Dumont, split decision. She lost against Pennington, who was a champion as well, and she missed weight that fight. Talking about Macy Chasson, and she lost to Ariel Aldana versus that. If you remember that up kick to the liver.
Yeah.
So I don't think, especially fight fans, are too excited for this. I think it's just to make movements in that division, in the bantamweight division for women's. It's just to get something to make Pennington come back now. And like, hey, you have options. You have either a rematch against Bueno Silva if she wins. You have Kayla Harrison, who had an impressive win against Holly Holm. You have Juliana Pena, who's still talking crap. So you have options. She needs options, and she has to defend her belt soon because she fought in January, first month, and we're 6 months in, and there's not even an announcement for defense. And last thing I heard is she's not injured. She's like just chilling around. I get you want to be champion, but you got to defend your belt. You got to have somebody as an option. Silva could be the next contender to get a rematch.
I mean, it says a lot about this division, and I'm just looking it up now just to double check that I'm getting my facts right before I go and drop a bomb. It says a lot about this division, right, where you have somebody that was away for 4 years, unranked, comes back, loses a unanimous decision, and gets ranked at 15. That's Jermaine Durandamy. So when you were kind of throwing off the names there, I was having a look at the division and how it sits as a whole. It's a bit of a mess, man. Honestly, it really is a bit of a mess, and we kind of talked about that after the Pennington win. When I spoke to Pennington, she said she was looking towards October. That kind of time. You can check that interview out on the channel. That's kind of what she's looking at. I guess it would be Kayla Harrison. I haven't seen anything on MMA Twitter of Juliana Pena recently, which made me question why I said who, because she just doesn't seem to be making any noise at the moment. So she must have picked up an injury or something like that. So yeah, man, look, as far as this fight goes, I would probably imagine Bueno Silva would pick up a victory, probably by unanimous decision, and just lead us to even more questions about this division, really, and just how shallow it kind of really is. Because Bueno Silva was doing pretty well, but she got firmly put in her place by one of the OGs, and then you actually look at that record and who she's actually fought. Oh God, yeah, I mean, it's not great, is it? Let's have a prediction and let's get out of here. Let's get to the next fight because that's a lot more fun.
I will go with Bueno Silva submission. Okay, don't ask me what round. I think it's gonna be kind of like somehow catches when they're like wrestling against the cage and Bueno Silva catches something. I think she's gonna go back. She's gonna call for a title shot rematch. So I think Bueno Silva by submission, any of the rounds, make it round one, so just end this fight early.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to see that, but that's not going to happen. I say I'm going to go with Bueno Silva by unanimous decision. That's what I'm going to go for. Next fight is probably one
Oh
that
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
quite surprised is not higher up the card. Ian Machado Gary against Michael Venom Page. I mean, the records here are quite something. 14-0 and 22-2. The only fights that Michael Page has lost is obviously I need to get my Lima brother right here. Douglas
Douglas,
Lima. Yes, I got it.
Douglas,
Douglas
yeah.
Lima by knockout in a I think it was a title fight back in Bellator, and then also I think it was Logan Story, if I'm also correct, where he basically got wrestled
Split
for
decision though.
3 rounds. Yeah, but he got wrestled for 3 rounds. Story just didn't do anything. I don't even think he landed a significant strike. That, however, is not going to happen in this fight. Curious to see your thoughts on Page. Obviously, you'll have seen him from Bellator, but also his debut against Kevin Holland. I mean, we're big on him here in the UK. We believe he's got a lot of talent. How far he'll go in the UFC is a big question. But yeah, what do you think about Michael Page and then this matchup against Ian Garrett?
I was gonna say, I wish this fight was first on the UK pay-per-view one, the Edwards and Bilal. I think that should where this fight should belong, and probably
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
get another fight going here. But I'm not gonna complain. We're gonna see this fight earlier, and I mean, am I crazy to say I don't think Gary is gonna even touch MVP here?
I think so.
I Here's the thing. I don't think Gary has
Here's the thing,
fought.
you guys.
Here's getting my inner Sean Strickland. I don't know if Gary has fought somebody as tall as him that could move as good as MVP with this point fighting style that MVP has. I think if MVP just did it against Holland, stays on the outside, go in, bam, bam, land, and get out. I think Gary might be a bit surprised. They both have amazing records, and if you compare kind of some people want to say like Belter caliber fighters versus UFC caliber fighters, Gary hasn't fought anybody significant yet. Although getting Rodriguez out was impressive, and that's it. And his leg kicks
Yeah.
in the victory versus Neil Magny was I guess was okay. It wasn't his best performance either, and then Jeff Neal wasn't the best performance ever as well. Even
Yeah,
though
that
we
was
can
a
blame
split.
Neal for that, split decision. A lot of people blame Neal for that, but Gary, if he's as good as he says he is, he should have taken out Neal. How people say he should have done. I think MVP is just stylistically not a nightmare, but a puzzle. It's a really difficult puzzle to figure out the point style. MVP, the only way we see him lost is either like by a big knockout where he get caught by like Douglas Lima or get wrestled like he did against Storley. So, and I don't see Gary having that knockout power we see or that wrestling criteria that would get Page to the ground and out wrestle for 3 rounds. Those are my thoughts. I think MVP is going to go in and out, be a sniper, land those like spinning back elbows, some crazy kicks, work the body. And we saw against I believe it was his Kenan Song, Gary get hit a lot until he finished it in the 3rd round. So let's see what happens. I'm very intrigued in this fight, but I think I'm leaning towards MVP here.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point about the movement. I think that's going to cause Gary a lot of problems in this fight because usually it's Gary is the one doing that, and usually Gary is trying to move a bit more around and kind of utilize that footwork. The question is with Michael Page is when is it going to catch up to him? I mean, he's not the youngest guy. What is he? 33, 37. Well, he's older than I thought he was. The dude's 37, right? Eventually that speed, that timing, because even if it's a millisecond against somebody like Ian Gary, it makes a massive difference for Michael Page with his game plan. Do I think that time is now? Absolutely not. I think Page is motivated. I think he's hungry, and I think he's just got that advantage over Ian Gary. To be honest, Ian Gary's long, and I think Page can kind of trick him into throwing out kind of those longer jabs or those longer straights or even the leg kicks, and just get around and hit him with something, like you said, something really random, something really, really odd. They're both high level strikers, so that's what makes this fascinating. It makes it a really, really interesting fight. Gary's not like the closest fight you can compare this to for Page is that Douglas Lima fight. And Gary's not like Douglas Lima. Douglas Lima's he was, I don't know if he is or wasn't, if he's not retired, but he was a much more well-rounded mixed martial artist, and he did, he hit Michael Page with a really nasty leg kick and then that shot for the ground. I don't see Gary being able to do that. I don't know if he carries that power, and if he doesn't against somebody like Neil Magny or Jeff Neal, is he going to be able to get there against Michael Page? That's always the question, right? Can they get there against Michael Page? If I'm Ian Gary, I spam leg kicks those first 2 minutes. I hit as many low leg kicks to the outside knee as possible, even if it means you have to change your stance to get to the outside knee of Michael Page. That's what I do. That's what I do. You set it up with a jab or something, and you just spam those leg kicks. Cut off the movement as soon as you can, and then you can play a little bit more of the stalker game, get his back against the fence, and then try and pick him off with very short combinations. I think if you're Gary, that's what you got to do. You got to get in 2 or 3 strikes, get out, get in, get out, cut off the movement. If you're Michael Page, you just do what you do. You do what you do. You be unpredictable. I don't think nobody really, unless you fought Stephen Thompson, and even Stephen Thompson is a bit more of a predictable version of Michael Page. I think, although Thompson's got the spinning kicks and things like that, he doesn't have the speed and unpredictability that Michael Page has. I think Wonderboy can be a bit more predictable. So I think Ian Gary's really going to struggle with that, man. Really going to struggle.
I like what you said. I think the leg kicks, that's what is Gary's game. It should be his game plan because of what we saw as well against Neil Magny. But Neil Magny's legs might be easier to hit. And in terms of speed for MVP, I don't think he hasn't lost at all. If you look against Holland, which is not even that long ago, that was in April or March. February, beginning of the year.
Was it 300? No, it wasn't.
No, it was. I think it was the O'Malley card, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right.
O'Malley card, 299, 298.
Yeah.
His speed's not gone. He was always first on Holland. Holland's not bad of a striker as well. I think Gary's definitely a little bit better than Kevin Holland. Not a little bit. He's definitely better than Kevin Holland. And MVP was first, and I think he's going to continue on that momentum. MVP looked fresh, didn't take much damage. And if you compare the fighters based off their last fights, he didn't do it too well against Jeff Neal, who's a boxer, stand-up striker, and he was kind of being pushed to the cage a lot and not throwing a lot. Not throwing a lot, we might see similar to MVP, where he's going to do his point style and kind of push Neal back towards the cage, but go in and out, throw some damage. Neal would really, Ian Gary is going to really have to push his pace on him and then maybe try to get MVP down just to get that victory.
Yeah. And what do you think? What do you think the kind of the last word on this fight? What do you think the stakes are for both of these guys? It's obviously more of a risk, I feel, for Ian Gary, being the higher ranked fighter, fighting the guy lower down than him. But what do you think the stakes are for each fighter? We have Gary in at 7 and Michael Page in at 14.
Oh, the stake is definitely fast track to the title for MVP. It's you want to see if he beats, so he's 14, he fights number 7, then he fights somebody in the top 5. Then he gets like a Usman, maybe a loser of Edwards and Bilal, a Colby Covington. You definitely fight fast track. He's gonna be probably 3 fights, and if he wins all 3 fights, title contention for MVP. In terms of Gary, he probably is the one losing more because he's fighting down the rankings. He didn't have an impressive fight last time against Jeff Neal. So it's definitely just remind everybody who he is, and then he fights in the top 5. He could even show up to the UK pay-per-view after if he wins and be like, "Hey, I'm right here." Because then you
Mhm.
have Usman, who's we don't know what he's doing, what he's up to.
Yeah, no, we have no
Uh,
idea.
we have Bilal's fighting Shavkat and Jack Della Maddalena. Seems like that's the fight when both of them are healthy. I mean, Colby, I don't even know what's with Colby. That could be the fight. That could be if you intrigue, if you
Well, that
actually
was the
do.
fight that Gary called for this card, wasn't it?
Well, they did talk a lot of crap online. I don't know if Colby is up for fighting. Apparently, Colby's also has a toe injury or a foot injury. So, or his foot toe injuries today. That is the fight to make. I think after Gilbert has a fight with Sean Brady, so everybody's kind of like booked up or somewhere there. So it's definitely next fight for Gary is moving up. He's the one more to
Mm.
lose, but a lot to gain. Both of them have a lot to gain, but Gary's the more to lose.
Okay, prediction time. Ian Gary, Michael Page. How do you see it going?
I see it MVP decision. I think it's gonna be a clear unanimous decision, 30-27.
Mm, yeah, I'm struggling. I have to say, I am struggling with this one. It's a massive fight for both fighters. I think I am gonna go with, uh, yeah, same as you. I don't see either getting a finish. I think it might be closer. I think we
Yeah.
might have a first round, second round flip here. I.e., Michael Page will do well in the first. Gary will come back in the second after kind of working him out a little bit, and then it just being an all to play for in the third. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Michael Page, but I'm actually gonna go split. I'm gonna go a split decision. I think it's gonna be a really, really close fight. I do think Gary is gonna struggle with that speed in the in now, but I think he's gonna find him enough to make it close. To make it close. But a hell of a fight, man. That's the striker's technical dream fight. That is. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I hope. So takes us into the prelims where we actually have 3 Canadians fighting on the prelims. So should be hopefully a good night for you, my friend. Do you want to chat to us a little bit about those 3 Canadians and how they're looking in their matchup?
Okay, well, if I start the first Canadian, Marc-Andre Barrio against Joe Pyfer, I don't see him as having a chance. I think he's more of a punching bag. He did have a weird fight against Chris Curtis in UFC 27 in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Joe Pyfer is just a special human, a special fighter as well. I think it was kind of weird to see him lose against Jack Hermanson like that, but I think that just adds to the experience for Pyfer. He felt the loss in the UFC. He felt a 5-round main event, how it feels. He's still the featured prelim next fight, so he's gonna kick off the people, go into the main card. I don't see Barrio doing pretty good here. I think I'll take advantage for Pyfer. I think Pyfer might remind everybody who he is and try to get the
Mm-hmm.
finish. Charles Jourdain against John Silva. I think that's a fun fight. I think everybody likes Charles Jourdain. I think he has a fun Twitter account. He talks. He's a really funny guy. He's fun fighting style as well. Um, Gene Silva. I'm trying to see if I remember him from his last fight was
Weston
against
Wilson.
Weston Wilson, and then he came off the Contender Series before that. So he's still new. He's obviously younger than Jourdain. Um, Try to take that advantage. Jourdain's kind of a fun fight. I think anybody who goes in there will be in a fun fight. They're both around the same age, 28, 20, 27, 28. Jourdain obviously has way more UFC experience. So this could be a fun, intriguing fight. I don't think it's going to be spectacular. I don't think we're going to see a finisher either. I think it's going to be a fun back and forth 3-rounder in the featherweight division. And my girl, Gillian Robertson. Um, is that fight still going on? Because isn't Michelle Watterson fighting Rose now?
No,
Oh, it's Tracy
Tracy
Cortez.
Cortez has
Yes,
stepped in. Yeah,
yes. So never mind. I like Gillian Robertson in this fight. I think she's amazing jiu-jitsu. I
yeah.
think she is on a I don't know on a path, but on a momentum swing right now with two two with a finish against Poliana Viana. She did lose against Tabitha Ricci, but before that, she won against Pierre Rodriguez, Maria Agapova, Priscilla Carshera, what's her name?
Mm-hmm.
The
Cachoeira,
zombie lady, Carshera, the zombie
the
lady. So,
zombie lady.
and she's keeping active too. She's been doing grappling matches here and there. So I think I like Gillian Robertson chances to smash if she could get Michelle Waterson down and submit her.
Mm-hmm.
And she has the most submissions in flyweight history for the women's division. So
She does. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
she's a lot of fun.
yeah, she's a lot of fun to watch. I think if you're a big grappling guy, you like jiu-jitsu, she's fun to watch. She always gets away with submission wins. So I like that. I like that from her, and I would root for her in that fight. I think we have 2 out of 3 chances for Canadians to win.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. Hey, I like Robertson as well. I think she's a super exciting fighter. Whenever you see her kind of interviewed and stuff, she seems like a just a really mellow, like a really chill person. So
Yeah.
I hope she can do well, and it's good because she can help her climb the division. She does kind of tend to, pick up a few wins, then pick up a loss just as she gets some momentum. So hopefully she can kind of break out of that a little bit, pick up a good few more wins to round out this year, and maybe have a big year in 2025. And Michelle
Yep.
Waterson Gomez, yeah, she's kind of towards the end of it, isn't she? She is a bit of a decision merchant, and Robertson does tend to lose that way. So it's just a question of can Waterson keep it on the feet long enough to kind of grind out that decision. Other standouts on the prelims. Look, my guy, one
There's
of
a
one of the
lot.
first fights I fell in love with, Cub Swanson. He's on the card against Andre Philly. That has all the ingredients to be an absolute
Fireworks.
barn burner. The curse of the new UFC gloves or not, that's going to be a good fight, no matter what. And Peyton Talbot, man, you kind of got a feeling that he was on a McGregor card as kind of that guy they want to build. That should be an exciting fight, man. Peyton Talbot, he's a wild man, isn't he?
He is the best prospect at 135 right now, and we have a lot. And there's another one fighting in the first fight, but
Mm-hmm.
Talbot is looking amazing, especially what he did with his last fights against Simon. Like we thought they're both top prospects, and he just got rid of him so easily. And I
Yeah,
think Talbot, they definitely, I agree with you said, they definitely try to set him up on a Connor card, get that name recognition, keep it going. And Bantamweight just so stacked. So you have to get those victories and force your way into the rankings, especially with a certain gatekeeper called Ricky Simone fighting in the first fight as
mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fighting in the first fight against Vinicius Oliveira,
And you guys
who's
gotta watch out for Oliveira as well.
is
Oliveira
he a monster?
is a killer. Well,
Yeah,
do you remember his first fight against Wapai?
remind me. I probably do, but I don't recall
Oh,
his name.
a third round knockout, flying knee. He ran against the
Ah,
cage.
yeah.
They're both of them was their
Yeah.
first fight in the UFC. And
Mm-hmm.
before that knockout, it was already a fight of the night, probably almost
Yeah.
fight of the year, with both those prospects trying to go well, blow for blow, trying to show who they are. And they're saying Oliveira's already up there. He's ranked according to Topology number 57
Mm-hmm.
in the world of bantamweights of 135. So he's close. He's up there, and I think is a good showing. As you see how he tests against like a wrestler type, well-rounded fighter against Ricky Simone. But I'm huge on Oliveira, Talbot, and we definitely gonna see those two men fight down the line, either like into the rankings or close to the title. They're
Yeah.
both gonna be ranked soon. They're both gonna be fighting each other. So it's gonna be good showcase for their bantamweight prospects.
Yeah, those early prelims are definitely going to be worth tuning into. I mean, Ricky Simone, he's no slouch, although he's coming off a 2-fight losing streak. He is no slouch as well, so that should be a really exciting fight. Last one I'm going to throw out there. Look, I love a road to UFC prospect. We've got one coming out here from Japan, Ray Tatsura. Can't get the pronunciation right.
Saruya. Yeah,
Saruya, that's probably a bit better. Yeah, this dude's a menace on the ground. Absolutely goes for it from the very first bell. So this fight against Carlos Hernandez, I mean, it could be one of those, but they're trying to set him up. But we've seen how quickly these guys can rise. I mean, we only have to look at Tatsuro Taira with one of my picks for the start of this year. You only have to look at that guy to see how quickly they want to rise these guys and how quickly they can go through the system in the UFC. So he's one to watch. And then, of course, you've got big Andre Arlovsky still still somehow pulling out fights in the UFC against Martin Budai. So that's the card. Anything else you want to touch on, mate, before we jump out of here?
I think we pretty much talked about the card well enough. I think the card got better.
Yeah.
I think the card actually got better. I think people are more excited for Pereira, Yuri, Lopez, Ortega than Connor, Chandler, Hill, Olberg, Hill, Roundtree, Smith, Olberg.
The Lego pieces.
Yeah, and just mentioned the June fever is high right now because how many injuries, especially the Saudi card, just happened. How many replacements we had? How many replacements in this card? And I just heard Mike Malott in his fight got canceled because somebody got injured, and that was supposed to be
Wow.
UC Denver. Like, you have it so good for so long, and then all the injuries happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, we talked about the UFC 300 hangover, and this is probably the first card, obviously pay-per-view card that's come around that doesn't quite suffer from it. But without all the rearranging, it wasn't really a great card. You probably look towards the Gary Page fight, the Conor Chandler fight. This card is definitely much better. But yeah, the injuries have just been wild. I mean, I can't remember a time recently where we've had so many events affected by the injuries and by different movings around and things like that. Hopefully, 304 going down in Manchester stays free of all of that rubbish, and it just stays contained in its own little bubble, and nothing really happens, because that is a banger of a card for British fight fans. And then there's a few in between, right? What else have we got coming up in between? Nothing.
Your favorite Apex cards?
Hey, it's been a little while.
Yeah, we have the week after we have it's Rose versus Cortez.
Tracy Cortez.
And I just said Mike Malott versus Gilbert Urbina. Somebody's injured, so they lost the main and co-main event. It has to be replaced. Then we have Lemos versus Virna. You have to help me with this name. Virna Idiroba.
Oh no, Vina Janjiroba. Oh no.
Janjiroba. So that's another main event. Like Duhan Choi's on that card. That should be fun. But
yeah, he's fun.
But nobody like you'd really stand out like, wow, I wanna see that. But after we have UC 304, we have Sanhagen versus Nurmagomedov, and they pumped up that card really much with Nick Diaz being back. UC 305 after that. So it's coming up. I think it's coming up. We have Sean Brady, Gilbert Burns, Calvin Kattar, Kyle Nelson, another Canadian.
Yeah, so we just got to survive July, basically.
Survive July with all these injuries as well. And then
get to the end of July.
Hop on UC 304 and then smooth sailing.
Smooth sailing through there. All right, my man. As always, it's been a pleasure breaking down the fight with you. We will hopefully be back, although I'm going to be traveling, so maybe somebody else will be in the hot seat with Mr. Gamebred there to break down this card in a more extended fashion, because there's not too much to talk about after that, as we just said. But John Gamebred Boguslavski, as always, mind your toes, my friend, and thank you very much.
You too, man. Don't get injured on your flights.
Right, cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.